3 sinister, true stalker tales. Spine-chilling secrets exposed from the haunted past. The quiet suburb of Willow Creek once felt like a happy ending. Children laughed and played, while barbecues scented the air with grilled delights. But for Sarah, a single mother striving to carve out a sanctuary for her 2 small kids, life had become a series of relentless struggles. Late hours at the diner, endless shuttling to school, and grocery lists scribbled on napkins. The weight of her responsibilities bore down, and she wore it like an old coat, woven with resilience. Yet, everything changed one eerie evening as the shadows lengthened. Her phone buzzed incessantly. Unknown number. She squinted at the screen, dismissing the messages at first. Creepy teenagers, she thought, yet her pulse quickened as the night crept in. Then the first sinister element arrived. Her trash cans toppled over, and the eerie laughter of her children turned into frightened whimpers as they stared out the window. An unsettling shadow moved along the fence, too quick to catch. An icy dread snaked down her spine. Days passed, and Sarah's world felt increasingly claustrophobic. The echo of footsteps outside her window at night, and the sight of misplaced toys brought panic boiling to the surface. Then, her neighbor Joe, a retired cop, offered help, but Sarah began to notice things about him too. Dark whispers surrounded him, casting doubt on his good-natured gestures. His past was laden with controversies, making her feel like she was teetering on the precipice of trust and treachery. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The sense of safety Sarah once held on to began to dissolve, like mist in a harsh dawn. There were whispers in the air. The cicadas no longer sang, their buzzing replaced by a haunting silence that made her skin crawl. Shadows elongated, twisting and surging like dark fingers aching to drag her into the depths of unknown terror. Heart racing, Sarah realized her stalker seemed connected to Willow Creek's infamous lore, a family linked to unsolved mysteries and buried secrets that seeped into her dreams like ink stains. Then came a critical moment that shattered her already frail sense of security. She overheard Joe's hushed conversation with another voice. "Finish what was started," they said, and in that chilling instant, her body froze. Fear clawed at her throat as a feeling of betrayal tightened like a noose around her heart. Home, once her fortress, felt like a prison filled with ghosts waiting to pounce. She peered out, the air thick and heavy. Could she trust her neighbor? The answer hung in the air, pregnant with dread, and just outside her door, as night enveloped Willow Creek, a haunting silhouette lingered at the edge of her porch, too familiar, too close. The feeling of being hunted crept over her, a dark wave crashing against the walls of her existence. As her tremulous hand reached for the door, the whispered secrets of darkness wrapped nearer, each breath a countdown toward the revelation of a nightmare she was never prepared to face. Would she discover the truth, or would the haunting lore of Willow Creek sweep her and her children into the abyss? The door creaked open as Sarah hesitated, her heart pounding like a drumbeat in her chest. The heavy air outside wrapped around her, a suffocating blanket of dread. She squinted into the darkness, searching for that silhouette, that looming figure that felt like death's shadow creeping closer. The quiet was deafening, and the stillness made her skin prickle. "Mom," one of her kids called from inside, the worry in their voice breaking the tension of the silence. She took a deep breath, forcing herself to calm down. "It's okay, sweetie," she whispered, but the words felt like a lie, her instincts screaming otherwise. She glanced back at the kids, their small faces pale and trustful, and it shook her something fierce. Could she even protect them anymore? As she stepped cautiously onto the porch, a breeze whistled through the trees, rustling the leaves like spectral fingers. That silhouette, now momentarily absent, felt almost mocking, a reminder of her growing obsession with fear. Fragments of Joe's suspicious conversation echoed in her mind. "Finish what was started." A chill grazed her spine, and she instinctively pulled the door tighter behind her, glancing into the shadows. An unsettling thought crept in. What if Joe wasn't the only danger close at hand? Suddenly, the laughter returned, shriller and echoing from the backyard. It wasn't her children's laughter. Sarah's heart twisted in terror. She took a step backward, her eyes glued to the path leading to the yard. Without thinking, she rushed inside, panic fueling her heart's frantic rhythm. "Stay inside," she ordered the kids. They flinched at the urgency in her voice, retreating to the safety of the living room. She darted toward the back window, pulling the curtain aside just slightly. Her breath hitched. There, just at the tree line, stood the figure. It was obscured in gloom, but she could make out a shape tall, thin, and unmoving. The figure seemed to watch her, body rigid in the still night air. Sarah's fingers trembled as she fished for her phone, desperate to call for help. But the screen lit up, revealing another unknown message. "I see you." A cold wave washed over her. It felt invasive, personal, like a reminder of how little control she had. She fumbled to delete the message, but her hands shook too violently. Fear made it hard to think. Who was this? Was it her stalker? Could it be Joe, or worse, someone playing with her? She cast another quick glance outside, and the figure had moved closer, a shadow drawing nearer with sinister intent. "Mom," her youngest whimpered, voice trembling. Guilt twisted inside Sarah. She had to act. Opening the front door felt like a death sentence, but waiting was surely worse. Every instinct told her she needed to confront this intruder, whoever and whatever it was, to protect her children. She steeled herself. Her breath shallow, she stepped out of the house. "Who's there?" Silence met her, thick as night. Then came the sound of soft laughter, low and chilling. The figure emerged from the shadows of the trees, a familiar face twisted in a malevolent grin. Fear seized her heart. "Did you miss me?" came the whisper, a voice all too recognizable. In that instant, dread washed over her, and the horrifying realization crept in. The secrets of Willow Creek were far more twisted than she'd ever imagined. The darkness pulled closer, and panic seized her heart. One thought blared like an alarm in her mind: was Joe really her ally? Or had she unknowingly walked into a trap set by a ghost from her past? The figure stepped fully into the moonlight, and Sarah's breath caught in her throat. It was Dave, her ex-husband, the man she had tried so hard to escape. His grin was wide, almost mocking, a twisted shadow of the man she once knew. "Why are you here?" Sarah's voice barely rose above a whisper, trembling with fear and incredulity. Memories flooded her mind: the anger, the violence, a past she thought she could bury. "Missed you," he said, his voice a syrupy sweetness that dripped with malice. "I knew you wouldn't keep the kids from me forever." Panic twisted like a knife in her gut. She forced a glance over her shoulder, half expecting a lurking shadow to appear at the door. "Get away from my house," she shouted, her voice growing stronger despite the fear constricting her throat. "Oh, come on, Sarah," he taunted, crossing his arms like a petulant child. "You don't want to wake them up. Wouldn't he want them to see their daddy like this?" His smile faded, replaced by a sinister glare that melted all warmth from the night. Her heart pounded like a tribal drum, and every instinct told Sarah to run. She took a step backward, urging herself to hold on to her composure for the kids. "You need to leave. Now." Dave chuckled, a sound devoid of humor, and took 2 steps closer, invading her space. "And if I don't? You really think you can keep me away? I have things to finish here." He glanced back toward the house, eyes darkening with intent. "Stay away from them," Sarah yelled, trying to sound more confident than she felt. She could picture her children peeking through the window, wide-eyed and terrified. With a flick, she grabbed a nearby flower pot, ready to throw it if needed. "You're not welcome here. You have no authority," she spat, willing the threat in her voice to drown out the fear coursing through her veins. The muscles in her arms tensed, adrenaline kicking in, and her heart raced faster than it had moments ago. "Oh, honey, you don't even know," he said, his voice flashing with a tinge of fervor, almost as if he were savoring her fear. "They should know the truth. It'd be so much easier if you just let me speak to them. A little honesty goes a long way." Before she could register the full implications of his words, he lunged forward, reaching for her. With a scream, she hurled the flower pot at him, the shards exploding against the ground, showering him with dirt and broken ceramic. "Get back," she screamed, turning and sprinting toward the house. But he was quicker, grabbing her wrist, and pulling her back with a grip like iron. "Change of plans, Sarah," he hissed, his breath hot and menacing against her ear. "You and I are going to have a little chat about our family." In that horrifying moment, helplessness washed over her as she fought against his hold, desperate screams rising from deep within her. The world around her spiraled. Just as she was about to call for the kids, a loud crash echoed from inside the house, momentarily halting time. Sarah's heart skidded to a stop. Through the windows, she could see the curtains billow as if stirred by unseen hands, and then, laughter louder and more taunting than ever, echoing through the night. "Mom." Her oldest suddenly appeared at the door, eyes wide with fear and confusion caught in the intersection between darkness and the love that should shield them. The terrible truth dawned upon her like the night itself closing in. This was no longer just a confrontation with her past. Something far worse had intruded upon the safety of her home. "Get back inside," she shrieked, cutting through the dark-tinged atmosphere of dread. But as her children hesitated, a figure loomed behind them in the doorway. Sarah's breath turned to ice. Who or what was between her and her children? The shadows had become a fray of nightmares woven together in a tight grip of fate, and she stood at the center of it all, torn between a dangerous past and unshakable dread for a secret that had yet to unveil itself. But who was really threatening her family now? The answer lingered just out of reach, but it was clear: the web of danger was growing tighter, dragging her deeper into darkness. Sarah's pulse hammered in her ears, drowning out the world around her. She felt a cold sweat trickle down her back as she tore her gaze away from Dave's grim smile and shifted to the door, which threatened to swallow her children whole. They looked terrified, but the figure behind them, whoever or whatever it was even more menacing. "Mom." Her oldest still stood there, rooted in fear. "What is happening? Get inside. Now." Her voice trembled, but held a pitch of urgency. She tugged at her wrist, attempting to wrench herself free, but Dave's grip was like iron. Laughter echoed from within the house, twisting through the air like a sinister melody. It sent chills creeping up Sarah's spine, snaking around her heart. The curtains fluttered again, now thrusting shadows into sharp relief, making it impossible to tell how many figures lurked inside. "See, you're not the only one who can put on a show," Dave sneered, tightening his grip as if he were savoring the moment. With a surge of desperation, Sarah twisted her wrist, breaking free just enough to sprint towards the door. "Get back," she shouted, blocking the entrance between her children and the nightmare outside. "Mom." The voice came again, trembling with dread. "Who's behind us?" A blur slipped past her in the doorway, a pale hand reaching out like a ghost emerging from the dark. Sarah's heart dropped as she recognized the familiar, wan features of her cousin, Lisa, her eyes wide with horror. Sarah wanted to scream, but the sound lodged in her throat. "Help! Get them inside," she shrieked, panic threading through her words. But Lisa's expression revealed something else, a sickly realization that wriggled into the pit of Sarah's stomach. Lisa's voice faded, caught somewhere between confusion and dread. "There's something wrong with..." Before she could finish, the door slammed open and flung Lisa aside like a rag doll. Frigid wind swept through, knocking Sarah back on her heels as something dark and hulking rippled into view. It stepped into the dim light with a dreadful, lumbering grace, a grotesque shadow, face obscured, eyes glowing like embers. "Mom." Her oldest cried out, but Sarah was bolted in place. Dave's laughter cut through the air, hard and mocking. "Looks like your family reunion just got a little crowded." The desperation swelled again, and Sarah pushed through the fear, instinct overtaking reason. She lunged for the shadows, slipping past the monstrous figure that loomed larger than life. "Get the kids," she screamed at Lisa, needing to focus on her family. But even as she turned, the chill of dread wrapped around her heart like a vice. The more she gazed back, the less she understood what was happening. Dave, still standing just outside, appeared more at ease than ever, an unnerving calm surrounding him, indicating he hadn't lost sway over the unfolding chaos. The dark figure behind was gliding forward, shadows twisting around it as if it had a life of its own. "Run," Sarah shouted, her strength faltering. She felt a flicker of hope and fear clash violently at that moment. "Mom." The soft whimpers from behind her and the terrifying laughter echoed in her mind. merging into a nightmare landscape she could barely comprehend. In an instant, the dark figure lunged forward, stretching its arms towards the kids. A scream pierced the night. Sarah's scream, but it resonated with an echo from deep within her past. Then, silence. An intense, consuming silence that was shattered by the smile on Dave's face, wide and terrifying, as if he had known all along. "What's the matter, Sarah?" he whispered, his voice dripping with venom. "You thought you could escape?" Heart racing, dread coursing through her veins, she turned to see what was left of her world collapsing in on itself. And then she remembered the truth. It clawed at her. What buried secrets were about to surface, revealing a history she could not outrun, a darkness that seemed to close in on her. The figures stood motionless, the door to her home widening, dark shadows pooling to the ground. Was this the end, or just the beginning? All she could think was, what would she uncover next? The shadows writhed, almost sentient, inching closer. Sarah's breath came in ragged gasps as she sensed the looming presence of the dark figure, a mass of malevolence tinged with a life of its own. "Mom!" Her children's cries echoed, but they were drowned in a sea of terror that threatened to consume them all. In a moment of clarity, Sarah snapped to focus. "Stay close." But she struggled to keep her voice steady. Dave stepped inside the house, his demeanor calm, his face a mask of mocking glee. "You see, Sarah? They're already trapped. Just like you." The sharpness of his words dug into her like a knife. Panic gave way to fury. "Let them go, Dave." The feeling of helplessness morphed into boiling rage. She took a step toward him, heart pounding with both terror and a desperate need to protect her children. Suddenly, the dark figure lunged. It moved with unnatural speed, and all Sarah could do was scream. She felt a pull in her chest, an instinct that told her she had to fight. But what could she do against something that felt like a nightmare coming to life? "Get back!" Sarah shouted, positioning herself between the figure and her children, heart hammering in her chest. The shadow loomed, but she felt something crack deep inside. An unexpected strength flickered within her. Lisa was still near the doorway, eyes wide, frozen with fear. "Sarah, help me!" Sarah barked, her voice an urgent growl. "Get the kids inside. Now." Lisa hesitated but then moved towards the children, urgency igniting a spark in her. Sarah's heart thudded painfully as she watched Lisa shepherd the kids backward toward the safety of the house, her own terror evident in every hasty movement. The dark figure paused, flickering as if unsure of its next move. It was unnerving, the way the shadows bounded around it like a huddle of snakes, awaiting a command. Dave laughed, the sound chilling. "I told you, Sarah. You never stand a chance." But the more he gloated, the more Sarah felt the tide turning. The fearful grip that held her seemed to loosen just enough for her to take a step, grounded in a primal survival instinct. "You don't own this place, Dave. Not anymore." The moment hung heavy in the air, filled with electricity as her words cut through the oppressive atmosphere. The dark figure hesitated, as if absorbing her strength. For a fleeting moment, Sarah thought she saw its features begin to shift, the shadows momentarily parting like curtains drawn aside. "Don't listen to her," Dave hissed, his face slipping into a mask of barely contained rage. "She's nothing without me." "No." Sarah stood taller. "You're nothing." With those words echoing in her heart, something shifted, the shadows recoiling slightly, as if they found her both terrifying and formidable. Dave's expression morphed into confusion, then quickly back to anger. The dark figure swayed, faltering as if driven by the emotions swirling in the room. Its eyes flared, glowing fierce and wild. Sarah took another step forward, emboldened by the feeling that perhaps she could pierce the veil of fear surrounding them. Suddenly, the children began to whimper again, the fear palpable in the trembling of their voices. Lisa reached back toward them, eyes wide with confusion and dread. "What do we do?" "Get out," Sarah shouted as she felt a sense of clarity wash over her. The fear flickered, momentarily replaced by anger that could fuel them all. Then everything changed with one chilling movement. The dark figure lunged again, this time a blur of shadow charging straight for Sarah. "Mom!" The screams rang out, piercing the air as shadows flared and converged. Sarah felt herself teetering on the edge of reality, about to be swallowed whole. But what emerged from the darkness next would reveal secrets terrifying enough to ripple through her very soul, as the world around her devolved into chaos. One thought echoed: was she truly ready to face the hidden darkness that tied her life to Dave? The monster lurking in their past? The thickening tension reached a breaking point, her heart racing as she stood her ground. Would she fight? Or would the shadows finally win? The dark figure lunged forward, its shadowy tendrils extending like claws, reaching for Sarah with a malevolent hunger. The air grew thick, suffocating, swirling with whispers that scraped against her mind, relentless and accusing. Sarah! Lisa's frantic voice snapped her back, urgency spilling through the chaos. Sarah could see the children now, wide-eyed and trembling. They were close to disappearing into darkness, and every instinct in Sarah screamed for her to fight. "Stay back," Sarah shouted, her heart pounding like a war drum. She felt the weight of desperation pressing down, igniting a fire inside her. The shadows halted, momentarily stalling, twisting as if uncertain of their own nature. Dave stepped closer, his grin a twisted mask of delight. "You think you can protect them? This darkness is theirs now, yours too." Fear gripped Sarah again, bitter and cold. But she refused to back down. In this fight against her past, she could not let the shadows consume her children. "You're wrong," she shouted, finding strength in her voice. The dark figure writhed, pulling back almost as if struck. Sarah saw it, a moment of hesitation from the monster that had haunted her. She stepped forward, allowing the clarity of rage to fuel her, words spilling forth, stronger than any spell. "I want to let you take them." As though triggered by her defiance, a piercing scream echoed from the shadows. The world twisted, and from the depths, figures began to emerge face after terrifying face, whispering secrets maliciously, taunting her with memories she had thought buried deep. People she once knew, people Dave had torn from her life. "Welcome back, Sarah," one murmured, eyes glinting with a wicked light. "Remember us?" "No, not them too." The shadows flickered feverishly as if feeding off her horror, drawing strength from her memories, her guilt. She felt her courage waver in the face of the haunting realities they represented. But beneath that dread, a heart-stopping resolve surged. "Stop," Sarah commanded, each syllable a battle cry. The shadows shrank back, recoiling as if burnt by torchlight. "Your words are empty." Dave spat, stepping back, irritated at the unexpected turn. "You won't escape me so easily. Try me." She was surprised by the venom in her voice and the determination coursing through her veins. The dark figure hesitated again, jagged edges retreating, uncertainty flickering in its eyes. "Mom, we need to go." Lisa's voice broke through not fear, but clarity. "Now," Sarah yelled, her heart pounding in her ears. She turned back, eyes darting to the children, their faces vivid with shock and terror. With a burst of adrenaline, she lunged toward them, snatching Lisa's hand. "Run to the car. Go." The rush of movement sent the shadows swirling in outrage, volleying towards them like a storm. Sarah pushed the children ahead, the weight of their small hands anchoring her resolve. But Dave would not let them escape that easily. "You can't outrun your past, Sarah. It's part of you." A lightning bolt of fear shot through her, but she pressed on, urgency propelling her forward. They could not let him or this darkness win. Not now. Suddenly, the ground beneath her began to tremble, and a deafening roar shook the air. The dark figure surged toward her, its fury igniting as the shadows writhed around it like a whirlpool hungry for destruction. "Don't look back, just go," Sarah shouted desperately. But as they reached the threshold of freedom, a bone-chilling realization clawed at Sarah. What if leaving wasn't enough? What if the darkness followed them, as it had always threatened to? With a final glance back, Sarah saw Dave, rage and satisfaction etched across his twisted features. The crackling shadows around him formed dreadful shapes, hinting at horrors yet to come. The world spun, and just when they seemed to be free, the ground split open, taunting her. As she turned her gaze back toward the car, a roar echoed from the depths, reverberating deep within her being, vibrating with an ominous promise. "We will come for you." Within that swirling chaos, Sarah was left grappling with her choices. Could she really outrun the shadows? Or was she destined to confront the past that clung to her like a second skin, The fear settled like smoke in her lungs. The path before them was unclear, but one thing was certain. The fight was far from over. But what was waiting just beyond the door they fled through? Would they make it out alive, or would the darkness claim them before the night was over? The car loomed in the distance, a beacon against the encroaching void. Sarah pulled Lisa and the other children along, urgency propelling them forward. The ground quaked violently beneath their feet, a terrible reminder that the darkness was not finished with them. The roar of the chasm echoed, forming a sinister symphony with the frantic thuds of Sarah's heart. Faster, she urged, barely keeping her breath steady, the acrid smell of fear thickening the air around her. A glance behind sent shivers creeping up her spine. Tendrils of darkness were snaking through the fissure, hungry and eager. Would it swallow them whole? The car was only a few more strides away, yet every step felt like wading through a thick sludge, each second a gamble with fate. The shadows twisted like angry serpents, their whispers clawing at her sanity. Memories painful, twisted memories wove into the cacophony, challenging her resolve. "Mom, hurry!" Lisa's voice cut through the noise, strong and clear. Sarah's heart surged with pride. Lisa had turned into a brave warrior in this nightmare, her determination rivaling Sarah's own. With a desperate lunge, they reached the car. Sarah fumbled for the door handle, her hands trembling as dread pooled in her gut. What if the monsters could still reach her? What if leaving the house was just a pause in the horror? "Get in," she urged, almost shoving the kids inside, the slamming of the door echoing like a death knell around them. Sarah quickly hopped into the driver's seat, hands shaking on the steering wheel. She fought the urge to look back, to confront the darkness that had shaped so much of her life. Gritting her teeth, she turned the ignition, the engine sputtering like a dying beast before roaring to life. "Go, go, go," she urged, throwing the car into gear. The tires screeched against the gravel as Sarah slammed down on the accelerator, flinging them into the night. They tore away, the headlights carving brief paths in the encroaching darkness. Relief washed over her. They were escaping, weren't they? But then, an unmistakable feeling sliced through the moment, an icy finger tracing along her spine. A glance in the rearview mirror froze the blood in her veins. Shadows flared behind them, pooling and shifting, creating a vortex of dark energy that spilled onto the road. "What is that?" One of the children gasped, panic edging into their voice. Sarah's breath hitched. "Nothing. Just keep your eyes forward." But they all knew it was more than that, more than just shadows. Suddenly, a loud banging echoed from the back seat. "Mom, it won't stop," Lisa cried, her eyes wide with terror. Turning sharply, Sarah's heart plummeted. The children were not alone. A shadow had slinked into the car, its form twisting and tendriling, seeking to sink into their very beings. Sarah's pulse thundered in her ears as she fought to keep her composure. She could feel their collective fear closing in, like an iron grip tightening around her throat. She was losing them. "No," she screamed, slamming her foot down on the brake. The car skidded to a halt, tossing everyone forward violently. Get out now." She flung open her door, the night air stinging her lungs. The shadows inside recoiled, hissing as if they had been burned. "Mom," the children screamed, uncertainty ripping through the fragile moments like blades. "I'll hold it back," Sarah shouted, her voice breaking. "Just run." With every ounce of will, she focused on the dark mass curling around the car, drawing all her fear into a single defiant pulse of energy. "Get back," she roared, shocking herself with the ferocity of her own command. The shadows swirled in anger, howling, becoming a cacophony of voices, lost memories, guilt, everything she had tried to forget. They lashed out, but part of her smiled, a realization solidified. "You're just echoes. You have no power over me." Just then, a voice cut through the noise, a familiar whisper from the darkness that sent chills racing down her spine. "You think you can protect them, but what if they belong to us?" The shadows surged again, and terror clawed its way back into her heart. How could she protect her children if the darkness was right? With one last glance at her terrified kids, a singular thought pierced through the chaos. If she didn't act now, they would all be lost. "Run!" she screamed again, launching herself toward the writhing darkness, her heart pounding with determination. Michael's fingers trembled as he held the flashlight, illuminating the path while feeling gripped by dread. Would he learn the truth of her past, or would he become part of it? Darkness loomed ahead, hungry for souls, and Sarah was left confronting something far worse than she had ever imagined. The ultimate question lingered in the air like a heavy fog. What price must she pay to reclaim her children? The shadows writhed, chasing after Sarah like a pack of wolves. She felt their cold whispers brushing against her skin, tugging at her memories, her fears. With every step she took toward the darkness, dread clawed at her throat, threatening to choke her. "Mom." Lisa's voice echoed in the night, filled with confusion and chaos. "Where are you going?" Her little face was illuminated by the soft glow of the moon, terror pooling in her wide eyes. "I'm coming back. I just need to push it away," Sarah screamed, her voice raw with desperation. The shadows pulsed, a dark heartbeat surrounding her. "You can't save them," a voice hissed, a malevolence that felt all too familiar. It was a voice from her past, one she had tried to forget, and yet here it was, clawing back into her mind. "They belong to us." "No." She shook her head violently, trying to dispel the haunting echoes that filled her ears. Memories surged, faces she had lost, mistakes she could never amend. Each one echoed in the darkness, feeding it. The children stood frozen, eyes wide as the shadows seemed to stretch and morph, forming grotesque shapes. They were laughing, whispering secrets that made the air dense and suffocating. Sarah felt her heart racing. What if her children were right? What if this darkness somehow claimed them? Breathing heavily, she glanced back at her kids. "Stay there. Don't move." Panic surged as she saw Lisa inching closer to the swirling mass. Every instinct screamed at her to turn and protect her, but Sarah found herself rooted in place, a puppet tangled in invisible strings. She took a step toward the shadows, feeling the weight of their hunger, and then another. The swirling, dark forms began drawing nearer, tendrils spiraling like snakes ready to strike. They were hungry, and she could sense their threat. "Leave them alone," she cried, raising her hands as if to ward off the malevolence that slithered through the night. Her voice echoed in the eerie silence, creating ripples that seemed to momentarily disrupt the shadows. But they were relentless. "Join us, Sarah. It's easier. You know it." They beckoned, calling to her with a seductive lull. Those voices were familiar, calling her by name, compelling her to remember the laughter, the warmth, the love shadowed by regret. Images flooded in, her life before the darkness. A sunlit kitchen filled with laughter, echoes of her children in playful shouts, safe and joyous. It felt like a lifetime ago. She recoiled, the memories swapping places with her relentless present, the evil that sought to drag her back into that dark pit. "Remember, Sarah?" The shadows hissed, swirling closer, a torrent of despair. They brushed against her legs, teasing and taunting. "You're not alone. We can protect you." She swallowed hard. "I am stronger than you," she yelled, stitching together all her courage, pushing out the darkness within her. "This is not who I am." The shadows recoiled, a split second of hesitation. That was enough. She dashed back, grabbing Lisa's wrist, her grip firm. "We're leaving. Now." But as she ushered the children to run, a sudden force pulled her backward, yanking her off her feet and plunging her into a void that felt alive. She gasped, fear flooding her senses as darkness wrapped around her, as if trying to siphon her essence. The voice returned, mocking, "You think you can escape? You want to just lose yourself, you'll lose them." "No," Sarah screamed, every ounce of her resolve breaking through the crushing weight, reforging the fragile connection to her children. She fought against the darkness that threatened to swallow her whole. Suddenly, the shrill screams of the kids jolted her back. "Mom!" They cried again, pulling her back into reality, flickering like the dying embers of a fire. In that moment, she made a promise, a vow carved in desperation: "I will not let go." As she pulled the children toward the car, another horrifying realization struck. While I fight it, what if they can still reach my kids? With her heart pounding in her ears, guiding the little ones through the obscuring mist, she turned to them. Voice trembling, "You have to trust me." But the darkness spooled tighter, shadows coiling around her legs. The car felt miles away, and their escape seemed like a fading dream. And then she saw it, a face peering from the dark, a visage both haunting and achingly familiar. "Sarah!" Don't you want to join us? Her heart dropped. In that moment, chaos unraveling around her, she realized the past was fighting back, and it would take far more than her defiance to silence the screams calling from the shadows. Would she have the strength to face the long-buried truth, or had the past finally come to claim her? The grip of darkness tightened, squeezing the air from Sarah's lungs. She was suffocating, both from fear and from the weight of memories she couldn't escape. Lisa clung to her side, wide-eyed, her small body trembling in terror. "Mom, what is happening?" "I don't know." Sarah spat, her voice trembling. Panic flared in her chest as she turned, desperately fighting against the shadows that twisted and clawed at her. In the flickering light of the moon, the dark entities morphed, tracing the outlines of her worst fears, her past failures, the faces of those she had lost like a grinning gallery of torment. "Stay close," she barked, her heart racing as she yanked Lisa and her son Sam tighter against her. "We're almost there." They stumbled forward, confusion and dread fueling their frantic escape. Each footfall echoed like a drum, while the shadows danced behind them, relentless in their pursuit. The car seemed further away than it had moments ago, an unreachable sanctuary in a night soaked in dread. Just as she thought she could grasp hope, she heard the laughter of the shadows. It coiled around her, sharp and taunting. "You can't escape the truth, Sarah. It'll always find you." Suddenly, a chill swept through her, pulling her back toward the past she longed to forget. "You're wrong." She could barely manage the words, shaking her head as the figures in the darkness whispered in cruel harmony, teasing her with fragments of old lies. "You don't belong here," they hissed, coiling tighter, wrapping her in chains made of despair. "Let us help you remember." "Mom, please." Sam's voice broke through, filled with fear that cut deeper than any blade. Sarah's resolve flickered in that moment. She turned back to face her children, their innocent faces so close to her heart, so easily lost if she succumbed to the shadows. "We will get out." Each word was a fierce promise, and with that, she pulled her kids closer. But then came the cold, heavy sensation of panic gripping her stomach as she felt fingers brushing against her skin, pulling her down, threatening to swallow her whole. "Help!" came Lisa's terrified cry, echoing into the abyss. "No, no, no." The desperation set fire to Sarah's thoughts. She wrenched her gaze from the shadows and focused on her kids. In the distance, the car stood like a taunting mirage, gleaming faintly. They were so close. A few more steps. But then, the familiar face re-emerged from the shadows, lingering just out of reach. "Sarah, remember what we had? What you need, it was her mother, dead these last 5 years, yet so tangible in that moment." "No," Sarah shouted, shaking her head again, forcing her feet forward. "You're not my mother. You're a lie." With sheer force, she yanked the kids forward, propelling them through the consuming dread like a lifeboat through stormy seas. "Mommy, I'm scared," Lisa whimpered, gripping Sarah's hand like a vice. "I know, honey. Just trust me." They sprinted together, shadows clawing at their heels, tugging at the fabric of their sanctuary as they neared the car. It loomed closer, but it was still shrouded in mist, like a phantom waiting to either embrace or devour them. "Let go of the past, Sarah." The voice boomed, a command that sent tremors through her spine. "You won't find refuge. You will only find betrayal." With one final glance back, she saw the nightmare swarming, faces contorted, stretching in anguish. It was time for a choice where the burden of truth clashed with the instinct to survive. "Run," she ordered, and they jumped into the car, breathless and terrified. As she turned the key, the engine sputtered but roared to life. Hope bubbled in her throat. But just as they pulled away, that voice descended again, low and sinister. "You'll never be free of me, dear." The car accelerated, screeching down the road, but the feeling that something was lurking just behind still hung heavy in the air. As they drove further into the pitch-black night, the shadows began to whisper again, their voices weaving a new tapestry of dread. "You think you've escaped? The darkness resides in your heart." Sarah pushed the gas pedal down, breathless and pounding, but the road ahead twisted into nightmarish turns, each one unfurling memories too horrific to bear. Would they truly escape? Or was something more insidious lying in wait, ready to pull them back into the abyss? The thought sent chills racing down her spine, igniting a flame of fear in her gut. But then, suddenly, in the distance, she saw a flicker of light. A house. Could that lead to safety or deeper shadows? Terror gripped her again as she realized, whatever it was, they had to find out. They had no choice. What awaited them at the end of the road would change everything. Reeling from the weight of darkness, Sarah pressed the gas pedal harder, tearing down the winding road. The flicker of light loomed closer, a beacon cutting through the night. But shadows clung to their rearview mirror, whispering haunting secrets that licked at her sanity. "You want to escape," they hissed, each word a jagged knife slicing through her resolve. "Hold on tight," she shrieked, determination pouring through her like a last burst of adrenaline. She had to believe they had to escape this nightmare together. The beam of light grew stronger, swamping the car in warmth. "There, to the house," Sarah urged her children, her heart racing between hope and fear. She could almost taste the promise of safety. But as they neared, her stomach twisted. The house stood isolated, old and decrepit, surrounded by the eerie silhouettes of trees that stretched toward the sky. "Mom." Lisa's voice trembled, fear flickering anew. Sarah could see her daughter's small hands gripped tightly around the armrest, knuckles white. "What if it's a trap?" "It's our only chance," Sarah said, forcing conviction into her voice. "We can't let the darkness catch us." As they pulled into the gravel driveway, the house creaked ominously, the shadows swirling and flaring outside, eager to reclaim their victims. Sarah turned off the engine and took a deep breath, trying to steady the whirlwind of fear swirling inside her. The moment they stepped out, the atmosphere shifted. An unnatural chill pressed against their skin, but Sarah gripped her children's hands tightly, anchoring them together. "We have to stick together," she urged, stepping toward the door, her heart pounding louder than ever. "Mom, what if it's not safe?" Sam's voice quivered, and she could see the rising panic reflected in his eyes, mirroring her own. "It has to be," she replied, forcing a smile, even as doubt gnawed at her gut. She pushed the door open, the hinges screaming like banshees. The inside was dark, shadows lurking in every corner like predators waiting to pounce. She felt Lisa and Sam cling even tighter to her. "We'll figure this out," she whispered to them, the conviction growing stronger as her fear strained against the hope swelling in her chest. As they stepped fully inside, the door slammed shut behind them with a resounding bang, scattering dust and making them jump. The air felt thicker here, filled with secrets of ghosts that lingered in the floorboards. "Mom, I don't want to be here," Sam whimpered, and Sarah's heart twisted again, wishing she could draw him into her very protection. "Just a little longer," she assured them. But her own confidence felt like sand slipping through her fingers. Her eyes darted around the darkened space, looking for anything that might keep them safe. Then she caught a glimpse of something gleaming, a flickering candle on the table, casting an inviting light. "Look," she exclaimed, pulling the kids toward it. "Let us see if there's a phone or something. Maybe someone can help us." The hope that ignited in her gave her the strength to move forward, but as she reached for the candle, the shadows shifted, swirling faster and thicker like angry smoke. "Sarah," whispered a voice from the dark. It was low and sultry, sending cold shivers down her spine. "Don't listen," Lisa shouted, and Sarah turned to see the worry etched on her daughter's face like a harsh reminder of the danger they were in. The voice spoke again. "You can't hide here. The darkness will find you." With a scream, Sarah moved, pushing her kids behind her like a protective shield. "Get back. What do you want?" she shouted, anger flooding her voice. "Get away from my family." Suddenly, hundreds of faces emerged from the shadows, old friends, lost loved ones, taunting her with whispers of her life gone wrong. "Remember me, Sarah?" They flowed in a horrific tide. "You were never good enough. But I will break free," she shouted defiantly. "You will not take my family." With sudden clarity, she stepped forward defiantly. The shadows seemed to pulsate, a moment's hesitation zipping through them. Sarah extended her hands, pushing the warmth from her heart into the darkness. "You have no power here." The faces wavered, uncertain, and in that moment, she turned to her children. "Now, we can do this together." The shadows swirled around her, but every ounce of fear morphed into fury. "We're better than you," she commanded, pulling her children with her, and pushing the might of their collective love against the encroaching darkness. Together, they shouted, and a fissure opened between their hearts and the shadows. Light streamed through, chasing away the suffocating darkness. The roar erupted, the shadows writhed and shrieked, attempting to reclaim their grip. "No," Sarah shouted, and with a surge of strength, she yanked her children forward. "We're not afraid of you. We are love." With that, the shadows coiled back, shattering against their united strength. The faces melted into nothingness, fading into a whimper of despair as their power dissipated. And just like that, light overwhelmed the room, illuminating every corner, warm and filled with hope. They stumbled out of the house, the cool night air wrapping around them like a reassuring hug. They had reclaimed their freedom, and in doing so, Sarah felt the weight of years lift off her shoulders. "Look, Mom, the darkness is fading," Lisa exclaimed, pointing back at the house as they stepped into the moonlight. The night felt alive and ominous, but they were free from the hold it had over them. In that moment, Sarah gathered her children close, their breaths mingling in the cool night. "We did it," she whispered. "We faced the darkness together." As the stars twinkled above, the road stretched before them, a blank canvas. Finally, with hope coursing through her veins like fire, Sarah whispered, "We're going home." And with purpose, they stepped forward, ready to embrace a new beginning, a testament to their unbreakable bond forged through fire and shadows. Now, before you go, you need to subscribe immediately to keep up with the next exclusive stories we reveal. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm. Your support makes a difference. And I want to hear your thoughts. Flood the comments with your reactions and theories about this epic conclusion. Don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need the thrill of this story.